Alright, so for those of you that remember the windmill that I bought, I told you that I needed some componentry to hook it up to the actual side of the shed. I'll put a link for those of you that want to go back and watch that one in the bottom. So this is what I'm going to use to do that. So I found this is just at Bunnings, I found a fence post. It normally goes up that way and actually bolts into the ground or whatever for like a pool fence or something. I'm actually going to turn it up the other way. I just use these holes to match up against the holes in the bracket for the windmill, and then mount it up that way. It's got a nice big hole here. I just need to make this, sorry, it's got a hole here that I need to make a bit bigger so that I can get the cabling down, and that'll come out the bottom no matter how, depending on how long I end up making it. This thing's actually a meter long. I might cut it down a little bit, I might not, and then that can hook up to the controller here, and then I can make it all removable so I can take it with me when I go camping and stuff like that. I've also got these two brackets. So what I'm going to do for the shed here is this one's going to go on the outside of the shed, and then this one is going to sit like that, and then I'm going to be able to mount the fence posting on here, so that'll go up that way, and then I'll just bolt these two together. I've just got to trim a little bit over this edge here so that when I bolt this up to the shed, this bit isn't interfering on there. So I just need to cut that down and then drill some holes between these two brackets so I can then bolt them together. So I'm leaving this bit on here as a resting point for the fence post to sit on. So it'll come in here and just sit on there, so it'll just give it a bit of extra strength just to actually rest on there. I still will bolt it to here as well, but just a bit of extra. So the fence post is 50mm square, so I'm just going to push that across to 50mm. I might just go 55 just to make it easier. To make sure I've got a little bit of overhang there, so I really only have to cut off a very small piece of the other end there. So I'm going to cut a little bit extra off this one just so that that way it's not sitting over the edge of it and sticking out to risk people actually managing to walk past and bump themselves on it. I don't think it'll happen, but just to be on the safe side. And I'll just put some marks here so that I know that when I put it back together again, that the spots that I've marked are where it'll line up. I'll just put a square edge on this so that I know that at least the line I'm drawing is mostly square, because I'm probably not going to be able to cut it square. But we'll see. Alright, one cut piece of metal now. Nice shiny edges. So now I just find my marks and line them back up again. And as you can see, I've just come back a fair way off that curve there, just to make sure that it's not possible for anyone to catch themselves on it. So now the next thing to do is to mark some holes so that I can put some bolts through these two brackets to hold them together. So I'm going to reuse this hole. And I'm going to reuse the hole down here on the other bracket. That hole is right on that junction point there, so that's a bit of a pain. So I will have to drill a new hole here. Alright, so I'm just going to grab a clamp and I'll clamp these two together, and then I'll put them in the vise and start drilling the holes. There we go. Alright. Alright, so before I drilled the holes, I figured I should figure out what bolt I'm going to put in. And I thought I was going to use these ones, but then I realised that there's a non-threaded shank here on these ones, and of course the thickness of the metal that I'm putting the bolt through is less than where that finishes, so it's just too hard. So luckily I managed to find some other bolts with a nice big head on them, so they'll fit through quite nicely without a washer, and the nuts can just go on the bottom of it like that. So I just rummaged around in my container of magic things and found those ones. So now at least I know what size bolts I'm putting in, so now I can drill the right size holes. Alright, so these bolts are an 8mm bolt, so I'm going to grab an 8.5 just to give me a little bit of play when it goes through. And the other thing I got out was this, just so I can make the hole bigger on the fence post. Alright, as you can see, one bolt in. I'll take it back apart again once I've drilled all the holes and clean all the burrs up. That's the first one done. Alright, so I ended up doing the last one next, because when I looked at this one, which is the next one I've got to do, there's no way I can get the drill in from either side, because the strengthening bar there is on both sides and right the way. So, and that was the quick and easy one, where it's just making the existing hole bigger. Now moving on to the fun one, where I've just got to drill out this. Alright, so the next thing I've got to do is drill a hole in here, so that when I put the windmill on, I can feed the cables in through the hole that's in the top here, and bring them outside here, so that I can then put them onto the regulator. So I'm just going to pop a 10mm hole through here, which should be enough just to hold the wires to come through, and then this will get either screwed or double-sided taped or something onto here, and then a little box for the wires to go into so they don't get wet. I might actually pop two in there, one for the wires coming out of the windmill, and then another set for the wires that are going down back into the power that'll come into the shed here. I'm just thinking that the wires that are going to come in and out, the ones for the windmill need to come out here because they're not very long. So they may just end up being either one elongated hole or just one or two small holes, because I don't really have the length to move the cables around too much here. Also thinking that if I want to take this with me at times, I'm going to need this to be easily removed. But that'll do that for now, so the cables can come in through the top here, from the top of the windmill, out through here. They go into this connector here, and then these ones will go back down to the controller, which will be in the shed here somewhere, and that should be right. Alright, so back to the brackets. And we're going to put the bolts over there. That's one bolt done. I'll do this top bolt next, because at least I know that one definitely lines up. Then I'll see how well I've managed to line up the last one here when I had the two bits of metal separated. The hole is slightly bigger, so luckily for me, it's worked out alright. Alright, so that's the bracket. Okay, so as you can see, there's my box of drills and the brackets bolted together there, and the top part for my fence post that's going to become the actual bracket for the windmill to mount up on. So I've just got to drill some holes in here, and then I can bolt those two on. Oh, gravity on that one. So yeah, I might just drill some holes through this, and then if I find out that it's too long, I can always just cut it off and redo it. But I'm just going to reuse the holes that are here on this one, I think, because that'll be easier, and then I don't have to worry about it. And then this is pretty thin, so hopefully that'll go through okay, and then I'm just going to hope that I've got some nice long bolts that'll go through there. So after having put this together, I'm now going to take it apart. So what I'll do is I'll just line this up on the end of that. So it'll just be this bracket sitting on top of this piece, and then I can line up the holes and mark them and drill them out. Alright, so just to make sure that I don't stuff it up, I've written on here that this is going to the bracket, and this one side's going to the post. Alright, I'll just get something to scratch a hole in that with. My only marker is black, so black on black isn't going to work very well. Alright, so I've marked some points on there for me to be able to drill with. I can get this reflection off there well enough or not. I can't see it on the video screen at the moment, but that's okay, it's about there. Now I'm just going to do the whole bolt thing again. Looks like I've got the same problem again. I'll have to go digging through the box of bolts to see what I've got. Alright, luckily I had a nice box of bolts, so I'm going to use these ones. They're an 8mm bolt, so I'll do an 8mm hole through these ones. I'll drill some more holes. Alright, that's one. Rinse and repeat. Alright, so I had some camera issues there. I don't know what was going on there. So I've drilled the holes for the post in the bracket. So now I'm just going to bolt it all together. Except somehow one of the holes is very badly out. Clearly didn't mark that one very well, did I? That's really bad. Alright, so I got 2 of the bolts in. So I'm just going to have to re-drill the other hole for the last one. Managed to make a bit of a mess of that one. Alright, that's re-drill, yeah, English. Alright, now there's a bolt through that one too. Managed to make an appalling mess of that one. Alright, vacuuming. Alright, now time to put the other bolts back in. And the bracket's done. With my errant drilling, I've managed to now get a gap over there. Oops. Actually, one of these bolts the other way around. Alright, so we have end of the bracket there. So that's going to be, this edge is going to be on the shed. And then that's going to be the other bracket for the pole. And then we have the pole going all the way up here to where the windmill is actually going to be put. Alright, well that'll close it out for this video. Thanks very much for staying to the end. And give it a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.